Good evening, everybody. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Just getting everything fired up my end as always. Just give me 2 seconds to bring the video up and I can see the comments. Okay, cool. All looks all right. I always forget everything's the opposite way round when I do these as opposed to when I do my lives with 50mm media. It's a different studio, therefore it's a different screen, therefore it operates in a different way. Good evening. Hello, Paul. Good evening, Laurie. I need to make that smaller. What am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. I never know what I'm doing. I'm nearly with you. I'm just literally, I don't know what I've done there either. Good evening, everybody. What a week it's been. What a week. What a week. What a week. I don't know how everyone else's weeks have been. I've just realized as well I'm wearing exactly the same tops I wore last week. Oh, sorry, hood off. But yes, I'm good. Let's have a quick look. So, Laurie, Diane, Sue, Rachel, Dave and Shirl, watching from North Wales. Are you guys still in lockdown? No, you are still in lockdown in Wales, but I think you come out of it before. Certainly before we do. So, cool. Right. Should we just crack on and get started? What a week. What a fucking week. A little bit quiet because the kids are still going to bed. Hello, Morris. So what's happened this week? Okay, let me have a think. First things first, we signed off the new brand, the new logos for Shepton Mallet Prison last week on the Friday. I think it was the Friday. They got released to the team as well, so they got to see those. So Morris, who's on this evening, who works down at Shepton Mallet, he's seen those. Bit of a mixed bag, to be honest, if I'm brutal about some of the team really liked him. Others weren't necessarily as keen, or it wasn't their choice. I think Morris was one of those who was like, it wasn't his first choice, but he's totally there with it. So, yeah, so we did that, which was really nicely put together. I'm really pleased with the way the branding's gone for both the jails. I think people are going to really like it. They're completely different. We're going in completely different directions now with the prisons. So yeah, that was good to get that signed off last week, and we'll be announcing that as we get towards the unveiling of the new websites, which happens middle of March. So yeah, so middle of March that'll be coming out. So yeah, that's looking good. Monday was a cracking day because Mondays are just the best day. If you don't like Mondays, there's something wrong with you. Hello, Nev. Nev's arrived. I haven't seen Nev for a while, actually. So yeah, that was good. I'm just trying to think what happened and sort of how the week unfolded, because massive day today, which I will talk about because I signed off the finances from last year. So from 2000, well, I say last year, from 2019 ending 2020. So I signed those off. So I'm going to talk about those tonight. And I think I alluded to it last week. I talked a little bit about last week and I had kind of preliminary figures. Now I've got exact figures. I've actually got them over here, so I'll grab them in a sec. I might chuck a few up on the screen so you can see them. Normally, I think people would say, don't do this. Don't talk about these kind of figures publicly. It's not good business. But I'm going to, because I think it's important that people recognize the impact. And just the way things work. So I'm happy to do it. So anyway, so I'll be doing that shortly. I'm going to just run through the rest of my week, I guess. So so last Friday we finalized the branding for Shepton, so that was good. We've actually done a name change on the company, so SG Prisoners it was, which is the company that ran Shepton Mallet. That has changed its name, so it's now Shepton Mallet Prison Limited, which is just a lot cleaner. Interestingly enough, we're putting the change in for something else soon, so that's done. I spent the weekend, Saturday. Okay, so Friday night, me and the kids arranged to have a disco for Emma's birthday, a surprise disco. Now, her birthday was actually a week before, at the end of January, but because neither her or I were drinking or eating sugar or anything like that, I held it back a week until February so we could eat, drink, have cake, and all that kind of stuff. So I borrowed from work. I got Gary to put me together some lighting equipment, some smoke machines, and these are industrial. These are not home based or home designed units. These are what we use for big scare mazes across the prisons, across big locations. So this isn't a small smoke machine like this, as you expect. It is like this, and literally one blast just filled the entire room. So I set all that up with the kids. We made a big buffet. So we did a buffet across the table. We did like half a salmon and just stuff like that. Really, just dressed loads of different bits, the sandwiches and wraps, little pinwheel sandwiches and stuff. And then Emma came down. We surprised her and had this party. And I got loads of our friends and some of the family to connect on Zoom, so they could speak to her and stuff like that. And obviously we had a few drinks. So that was Friday. Really good fun to spend some family time just doing that. Then Saturday, I did some work in the morning around the house and just pottering around doing bits like that. And then Saturday afternoon, I built a den with the kids. Literally where I'm sat now just became one giant den, including the TV, including like sofas and cushions and stuff like that, but a monstrous den. And basically I'd said to the kids that we could sleep in the den that night, all four of us, and just watch films. And we got through 5 different films that day. So Saturday or into Sunday morning, we got through 5 films. Varying different things. We watched Black Panther, we watched Mary Poppins Returns, we watched Return to Oz, which is a great classic from back in the day. We watched Ice Age, we watched Batman Begins, just loads of stuff. Slept on our beds in the den, all 4 of us. So just really good fun family time basically over the weekend. And then Sunday, I had a load of work I needed to get done. So I was working Sunday into the evening. I had a huge raft of marketing stuff to get done. I can talk a little bit about that, but only a touch, because I haven't actually released some of this to the internal teams yet. Although saying that, I'll probably talk far too much about it. I'll probably let it go anyway. But yeah, another story. So that was Sunday, and then I was ready for Monday. So that was good. So I went to sleep Sunday night, pumped, excited, ready for Monday. Hit Monday flying. Really good amount of work happening at Shrewsbury. Good amount of work happening at Shepton. And it was basically starting to build up how the week was going to unfold, not knowing exactly what was going to happen in certain aspects. And certainly I'm talking about sort of the purchasing with the prisons. There's always ups and downs. It's never a smooth road. It's a little bit like this. But that's just how I live my life. It's a little bit bumpy. Again, it's all about the journey, though. If you just did this, it would just be boring, wouldn't it? Let's be honest. I know we all kind of sit there and we go, oh, just for an easy life, I just want an easy life. I just don't want hassle. I don't want problems. I just want an easy life. But let's be honest, if your life was just like this, just constantly, like, just easy, no problems, no hassles, no worries, would you enjoy it? I don't think you would. I think it's the bumps, it's the ups and downs. That's what makes it fun. In the same way as a roller coaster. If you did a roller coaster that just went like this, you'd be bored. You want a roller coaster that does this because it's about the journey. So anyway, so that was early into the week. I'm trying to think about what else has happened. There's kind of key points rolling into today. Graham's live. So Officer Goodwin, Behind Bars with Officer Goodwin. Really enjoyed that Wednesday. I think that is one of the best shows, if not the best show that we've done. And I'm really pleased with that because Officer Goodwin's moved into his own world. I haven't really spoken about this just yet, but Graham Goodwin I'm talking about here. So my brother-in-law's joined us, just chatting about you, Kyle. So Officer Goodwin, Behind Bars is his show. And I'm really pleased with it because Graham is the first person, he's the first presenter, he's the first host, and his is the first show that had been signed up by 50mm Media. So 50mm Media produce Behind Bars with Officer Goodwin. So we produce that entire show, all the tech and everything that gets wrapped around it, all the support network, all the imagery, the planning, all of that is produced by 50mm Media, obviously with Graham very heavily involved as the host. It's his show. So that's all built together. We then manage, 50mm Media then manages Graham in terms of what he's doing with the shows and all the timing, all the support and those kind of bits that he can access, but also all the social media platforms. So all of that, again, is done by 50mm Media. And I was really pleased because it was actually the week before, because we planned the shows a week in advance. And normally Graham and I we kind of do it like I do Joy and Joel, really. It's a bit unplanned, it's a bit unprepared, it's unscripted, we just go for it. But last week, we actually sat down, we planned out this week's show a little bit more. We had a structure, we knew where we were going with it, we knew the conversations we wanted to do, we knew the questions we wanted to ask, and therefore it ran a lot smoother. And the tech was a lot better as well, because what I did was I got in an hour and a half early on Wednesday, and I made sure everything was set up. I improved the internet and just did all of that. And that's only going to grow and get better and better and better as we install the new studio. So really pleased with that. We've got a second show signed up with a second presenter. So that'll be coming out probably in April time. So really happy about that. And very soon I'm going to start opening the doors to other people that want to create shows. So yeah, really positive live video cast with Officer Goodwin on Wednesday. And funny enough, today we actually produced one. I'm going to pick that up, Matthew. Funny enough, today we produced a live virtual tour for an education group. So we did one for a university, taking third-year students who study law, policing, and psychology, I think it was. We took them through a guided tour that normally would happen on site. Officer Goodwin led it, and I sat behind the scenes and clicked the buttons for the images, and that was really good. So an hour and a half tour, really good. Again, ran really smoothly. So I was really happy with that. Really pleased with that. So Matthew has pinged on. Do you remember you promised everyone a live Murky in the last issue? Right. Okay. So Matthew has flagged. He actually sent me a message about this. Oh, sorry. Kirsty's just said, "Hi, Kirsty. I was watching Most Haunted last week. The prison was on. If it was Shrewsbury Prison, then you'll have seen a much younger looking Joel. They filmed that quite a while ago." Okay, so Matthew dropped me a message. He's just commented about, I promised I would do a live video overnight coming into George Riley's execution date, which was Tuesday. And you may have noticed I didn't. And there's a couple of reasons why I didn't. The main one really being that I didn't really feel that it was necessarily appropriate to do it. You know, it is a 60-year anniversary since George Riley was executed. It was 60 years since George Riley was executed, but I just didn't feel it was necessarily appropriate to kind of do that sort of video overnight. I didn't really want to sleep in the jail either. He's freezing in there at the moment, like bitterly cold. And to be honest, I'm not kind of really, I don't really have the time, or I guess probably more the inclination, the want to kind of do paranormal investigations myself. It's not what I do. It's not that I don't believe in it necessarily. It's just not something that excites me. And I like to do things that excite me. I like to do things I enjoy. I like to do things that are fun. And I just don't get that from sort of doing paranormal investigations, not by myself anyway. I'd happily do it with another paranormal group. So I did ping it out to some of the paranormal companies. I did speak to Most Haunted. I said, hey, look, if you want to come in and do something, you're more than welcome. But I think with the restrictions and stuff, no, it's just not appropriate for people to come in and do stuff. So that's really the issues. So that's why I didn't do it. Louise is asking when we think the government will ease restrictions so we can get to the prisons. 1st of April is our plan. That is the hope. That's the expectation that 1st of April will be the day that we open up. Oh, there's a new table, I noticed. Yeah, I just picked it up. I was like, there's 2 tables. So yeah, I'm expecting 1st of April, but we will find out, I think, next week on the 22nd or the week after. Yeah, 11 days still, when Boris does his announcement around the 22nd about what that unlock's going to look like. So hoping for planning for the 1st of April. Let's put it that way. Okay, let's have a quick look. Okay, Morris has said family of his plus the victim could still be around. Well, the victim was 91 and was murdered, so she's definitely not still around. The family are still around of George Riley, and actually they've been to the prison and they've been on a tour. And it was really strange, you know, seeing them go on the tour. I stood in the execution room when Keith delivered the tour, and it was funny because I think it was his nephew. I think it was his nephew that was there, and he stood right next to the photo of George Riley, and they looked so similar. You clearly see a family resemblance. It was a little bit strange for Keith. I remember him doing the tour and he was a bit, do I adapt this? Do I change this? Don't I change this? Should I change it to be caring to the family? Or if I change it, will that look insensitive? So I remember him going through it, sort of asking all those questions. They were great. They were good in the sense of how they took it and sort of talking about it afterwards and stuff like that. So yeah, so there was no issues there, no problems at all. But yeah. Laurie, honest question, how do you have the energy to do all you do? I just enjoy it. I do things I enjoy. I would say I've it's nothing to do with luck, because luck doesn't exist. I wouldn't say it's fortunate either, necessarily. It is, I have got to a point, and I got there a little while ago, to a point where I understood that life is about doing things you enjoy, and you can build your life around the things you enjoy. There are some things that you might have to do, and a lot of people do have to do things like work and stuff, but you don't have to build your life around work. You can build it around the things you enjoy, and that becomes a secondary system. And if you do it in a certain way, you can find you enjoy that as well. So really, I enjoy it. I do get stressed, but I've been learning a new skill this week, and I'm going to talk about this before I go into the financial side of things. I'm just reading the things. So I'm just reading the comments. It's fine. So I've been learning a skill this week that I've been trying to master for a long time, and that is not to get stressed and react to certain things. Now, I'll give you an example of how this responds in my world. But we will all have these instances. So generally, the way it happens for me is I will receive an email at some point, and I'll be flicking through my phone. It might be the end of the day, it might be the middle of the day, it might be early into the evening, whatever point is, and an email will come up, and it will be bad news, or it will be something difficult, or at the moment we're in discussions, let's call it, with a production company that owe us about 10 grand of a bill they haven't paid. So we're discussing them paying this bill and going through that, and we thought we'd got to a point where it was resolved, and then they sent this email just going, "Nah, you got to get it lower. We've got to pay less." And I was like, "This is ridiculous." And I was fuming about this, and I really want just to tap out a response and just send it. And that's kind of the thing, you know, when you just want to react to something. And it's taken me a long time. And this week I have learned, I have got it this week, just to go, nope, that's fine. Put it to one side, do something completely different, forget that it's even there, go do something different, and then respond to it the next day or however many hours after it is I need to. And that's so, firstly, you can calm down, I guess, but secondly, you can evaluate what it is you want to do through that situation. And I remember teaching some of my team about this, my close team, about going into certain situations and identifying what it is you want to achieve from that situation, and then managing it to achieve what you're trying to achieve, effectively, to get that end result. And part of that is about not reacting. And it's a really difficult skill, I think, because it's just human nature to respond and to react. So that's something I've been learning this week. I'm really putting into practice of just, no, take your breath. And it's interesting because your stress levels go down. You don't get stressed by it. So that was quite interesting. And now I've kind of learned that skill, and I'm not 100% there yet by any means. My next thing is to try and master that skill, and to get to a point where I can just crack on with it, and it doesn't even affect me. And I think that would be a really good position to get to, because suddenly again the stress levels will reduce. So I guess that brings me nicely onto my New Year's resolutions. That's going well. Still fine on the fitness. Had a cheat day last Saturday. Boy, did I have a cheat day. Had a couple of drinks Friday night. Nothing too extensive. Didn't really eat anything that I shouldn't have eaten particularly. And then Saturday, Emma and I had a cheat day. It was a monstrous cheat day. I drank like, I don't know, half a bottle of rum, which was lovely. I ate some crisps, I ate some cake, I ate some chocolate, I ate some sausage rolls. Yeah, it was great. It's a lovely cheat day on Saturday. Didn't really have anything untoward on Sunday at all. I don't think I had anything. And again, I'm just going straight back into it on Sunday. No sugar, no chocolate, no crisps, no cakes, no sweet drinks, nothing like that. And today's Thursday, and I've still not done it, and I'm drinking tea. So that's going well. And I think I've got another half a kilo off, maybe. Still cycling every day, so exercise-wise, fine. Spend loads of time with the kids this week, playing games in the evening, different games and stuff like that, just connecting with them. So again, getting the quality time, and obviously chewing through the businesses. So those resolutions are coming all good at the moment. Right, let me just pick some of the comments. People talking about being able to take a step back, the sort of thinking time, and not reacting. It's difficult to do. I've learned to pick my battles and walk away. Yeah, Laura, that's so right. Pick your battles. Picking your battles is, again, another really good skill, especially in business. You have to really, I find I have to really choose which things I'm going to do and which things I don't, and whether actually I want somebody else to fight that battle rather than me. See, everyone gets it. Everyone gets these issues. Everyone knows these are the issues because we all have the same things. And all that's happened is I'm just learning to deal with them in a different way. And I'm actually finding, I must admit that this will sound a little bit weird, but I'm finding quite a lot of almost self-growth and kind of self-enlightenment over the past few weeks as I'm just allowing myself to open my mind to more things in that sense. So yeah, really, really good. Matt, before I forget, I am going to get you the name of that marketing company I've got data from. I'm just waiting for Emma to grab it for me because she's got all the details. So I'll get her to get it shortly. Okay. Would you, the dog's fine, by the way, someone's asking. Do you want to hear about the company finances? So really, I should be doing this and putting this onto LinkedIn. So I might try and do this like I did previously by doing a discussion, by presenting it so I can then just cut this piece out and chuck it straight up onto LinkedIn. So I've got my book, and that's where I keep all of my important information. Okay, so I need to think about how I'm going to approach this one. And really, I guess what the outcome of this is. So let me have some tea, clear my throat, and I'll get going, I promise. I'm going in a hot tub after this. That's going to be lovely. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Okay, so I've been saying for a little while that I'm going to talk about our company finances from the last financial year that we're just about to submit. So this for us is a 2019 to 2020 tax year, which is July 1st, 2019 through to June 20th, 2020. So basically it means that we had a decent year, or well, I can talk about the year in a second, but we had our financial year, July, all the way through to the end of March. And then end of March, we obviously went into COVID lockdown. So we lost basically income through April, May, and June. So 3 months, a quarter's worth of income, basically, we lost. So I've just done the finance with the accountants. I've just signed those off this morning, ready to be submitted to Companies House. I wanted to talk a little bit about what the impacts COVID had on our business. And I guess also probably to flag some things about corporation tax in terms of where I think the government have got it wrong. And that's really the whole reason to it. Now, we've got 4 different businesses. We've got 4 different businesses. We've got a 5th, but it's not trading properly at the moment. We've got 4 companies, 3 of which made profit and 1 made a loss. Not a huge loss. It's an event company, the one that made a loss is just kind of struggling, I guess, in the event world, doesn't really exist for what it was doing at the moment. So it's just something that sort of ticks away in the background. And I'm not really applying any time or energy or anything to it. But my other 3 businesses, which are very much tourism-driven businesses, so 2 prison attractions, as you know, Shepton and Shrewsbury Prison, separate businesses. So those 2, and our parent company, the Campbell Group, which houses all the central teams, all the support teams, and very much is a management business. So all 3 of those companies made profit, and combined, the 2 prisons made the biggest amount of profit. But basically, combined, the companies made £95,000 worth of profit last year. Now, I think, firstly, that's a huge, huge achievement because we lost 3 months of income. So the money we actually made, that £95,000, isn't anywhere near what we should have made. We should actually be making closer to £220,000 worth of £220,000 worth of profit, because those 3 months, firstly, being a tourism sector, April, May, and June would have seen us with Easter. So that's a big 2 weeks. Plus, we would have had a half term in there. And half term for us aren't 7 days, they're 9 days. So we would have had the 2 weeks over Easter, which isn't 14 days for us. It's actually 16, 17 days for us, and then another 9. So those would have been huge, huge days for us. Also, the way that our businesses operate is we don't actually have a huge fluctuation in our outgoings. They're pretty set. Now, there would have been some additional staffing outgoings because obviously furlough was there. Furlough wouldn't have been there. We'd have been operating. Therefore, we'd have had more staff expenditure. But outside of that, it wouldn't really have fluctuated. So realistically, we were somewhere in the region about £100,000 to £120,000 below what we should have finished in profit lines. So that gives you a gauge very quickly of how coronavirus impacted my business over 3 months alone. And that's not money we're going to see back. That's not money that we'll make up or anything. That's just lost. It's gone. That income is gone. That profit is gone. It was something that was profiled, and it's something I'll never see back. So it's just the way it is. And obviously that affects how we run our entire business. Obviously, we're now into this financial year. I'm not really going to talk about that too much because it's a bit of a mess. It's a bit up and down because of COVID here, COVID there. It's just, and because obviously furlough and funding and grants and stuff like that, it's not a real year. Whereas last year was, apart from the 3 years. So I think we did pretty well to come out of it with £95,000 worth of profit, which is really positive. Then on that money, we are now going to pay our corporation tax. So corporation tax is set at 19%. There's some different ways you can reduce corporation tax. I'm not going to go into those now. That's not really what this is about. But we're paying 19% corporation tax. So I think we're paying somewhere in the region, by the time we do all the balancing of the books and stuff like that, I think we're about £17,500, 17,800, something along those lines. So by the end of, I think it's June this year, or for June this year, we have to pay our corporation tax, which means I will be paying HMRC £17,000 or £18,000 effectively across the 3 businesses. Obviously, they will each pay their 19%. Now that's quite a chunk of change. When you make 95 grand, to then have to pay 17 of it to HMRC just for making the 95, it's a chunk of change. So I guess if we break that down, we can minus it off. We're going to be what, 77,000, something along those lines, is what we will take. Actually, it is £77,792. I've got it written in front of me, is what our companies will have done post-tax. And that money is then there in the bank, ready to be utilized. Now we can leave it in the bank. We can invest it into other things we're doing. I could draw it out as dividends if I wanted to, and obviously now I have to pay tax on it. So varying things we can do with it. But my point is, and I guess this is where I'm coming to, it's not the money left post-tax, it's the 19% corporation tax. Now, I'm not an economicist, that's not even a word. I'm not somebody that really understands the nitty-gritty of the taxation system and how that money is distributed across the board. But what I do know is the government take corporation tax from us, so money, taxes based on the profits we've made, and they put that back into the pot and it gets spent. And the government decide where that money gets spent all over the place. I think that's wrong. I think that's a wrong approach. And what I think should happen is I think the government should charge about 5% corporation tax. I think it should take 5% of corporation tax, just it takes the 19 now, take that and put it into the pot. But I think the additional 14%, potentially even an increase to 15%, so 20% total, same as VAT, 14 or 15% should be then attributed back to employees in that company based on the hours they work, their contracted hours that they work throughout a year. So to kind of break that down, if somebody works full-time in our world is 40 hours, we do 8-hour days, 40-hour weeks. If somebody has a 40-hour contract, then they will earn a full percentage, whatever that percentage might be, and I'll have to work that, I'm not going to do that now, a full percentage of the profit at the end of the year. So if you work for a company for an entire year, that company makes 100 grand, let's say, in profit, and therefore there's £15,000 to be separated between the employees that work for that company based on how many hours they work. And there can be other criteria. And the reason I think that is because what happens is when we give our employees that money, that profit bonus, let's call it, they're not going to keep that in their bank. They won't. Most people don't work like that. They don't keep money in their bank. Firstly, because they can't afford to. And secondly, it's not the mindset. It's not how they're financially educated. They're going to spend it. So they're going to go out and if it's a bonus, let's say if you get a bonus at the end of the year of 300 quid or £100 or £1,000 or £3,000, whatever it might be, you're going to spend it because it's a bonus. It's something you've not budgeted for. So you're going to spend it on something. Holiday, clothes, something to do with the car, a dinner out, a night out, something for the kids, whatever it might be, you're going to spend it. And my point is that what you're doing when you spend that money is you're putting money straight back into the economy, and not just straight back into the economy, but really you're putting it straight back into the economy, generally probably SME level. And I think that's a better way of doing it than letting the government decide where they're going to put that money. And I'm sure there'll be people out there that can argue why that's a bad idea. And it could well be a bad idea. But to me, that seems to make common sense. And this is the argument I always have with people when they throw the things at me about rich people. Well, rich people hoard the money. All these rich people hoarding this wealth. It's not true, because when you see rich people, like, and I mean, whether you're talking relatively rich or really rich or stinkingly rich or billionaire rich, you see them. You don't see them sat on money. They don't have big piles of money at home. They're buying boats, they're buying cars, they're going on lavish holidays, they're spending all this money on all these different things. They're putting it back into the economy. So it's not a case of rich people hoarding the wealth. Generally, the more money people have, the more money they spend, which is why they might have Rolex watches, or I've got an Apple Watch. They might have £20,000 suits or whatever it is, drive really nice cars. They put it back into the economy, and I think that's something that people always get is misunderstood about people with money. That happens, and I totally get that. And I really like spending money. So when I bought my hot tub, for example, I think it was the last big expense that I bought. It was like £7,000 to buy the hot tub. And I remember buying it. I was like, this is a lot of money. And I kind of like, oh, should I, shouldn't I? But I'm like, no, do you know what? I should, because not only do I want it for me and for all the other reasons I won't go into, but also that money's going to that business, and that business will then pay its staff, and they will pay its suppliers, and those people have got families, and that's how they pay the bills, and they'll take that money, it will go back into economy. I was like, actually, no. And I think I ended up buying something extra from them, not because I needed it, well, necessarily because I wanted it, because I was like, I want to put some money that's just sat in my bank back into the economy. And I was like, that's a good way of doing it, by running it through another business. And obviously, we pay our taxes through that. So there's VAT on that. There'll be import taxes because the hot dogs are bought from abroad. And then when they make their profits, I pay corporation tax, obviously national insurance, all that kind of stuff. So tax heaven, basically. Unless you don't like taxes, and it's tax hell. So that's kind of my gripe, I guess. Like I said, I was really proud of my team for making the levels of profit we did, for working hard, and it just goes to show how well our business was going to grow. Because if I compare that with the year before, so what we're talking about last year, basically across the board, we're talking 16, 17. We're talking realistically, we probably did about a 13% post-tax profit. Which I think is a pretty decent sum considering we lost 3 months of income. Whereas the year before that, we were doing like 4%, 5%. So we've really grown. And this year we should have grown massively. But we're just not there, because COVID has obviously had such an impact on that. And that's why we need to reopen. So that's kind of where I'm at. Any questions you have about profits, taxation, anything like that, I will give you the details of my accountant. You can ping them up there. I'll do my best to answer them. But I'm not a tax expert. That's what I pay accountants for. So I'm going to drink some tea before it goes cold, because I always let it go cold. So I chat too much. Put in the comments. Little black book. You know what? This is not even a little book. It's a big book, and this has got loads of. This is my financial book. So this is where I've got 3 different books. This one is where I write down all of my financial information. So it's got everything from monthly payrolls, like the overview payrolls. It's got money owed, money owing. It's got forecasting, loads and loads of things. And it dates back, actually, this book to where's all my post-it notes? It's got budgetary information. It's got email addresses for different people on. It's got so many different things. And I think it probably dates back. Well, I've got Gloucester notes in here, so it must date back to 2018 at least. It goes back a little while. I'm nearly at the end of it. I've got another little black book, a Shrewsbury Prison black book, where I keep lots of notes about what I'm doing at the moment, to-do lists, just bits and pieces like that I need. And I've got a Shepton Mallet black book, exactly the same black book, but a Shepton Mallet one. And that is where I start putting all my business ideas in, things I'd love to work on and stuff like that. So I've got varying things like that. So membership of the journal gifts keeps on giving. Oh, that's interesting. Matthew says most people would go abroad, and therefore we would possibly lose out as a country. Well, I'm not sure that's true, but I understand what you're saying. Certainly, people go abroad, but they're flying with airlines. Some of those airlines will be UK-based airlines. Some of them won't. But then the argument can be made, but lots of people come to the UK. So what we lose necessarily in people going abroad and spending in other countries, we gain from other people coming to us. Again, I'm not a specialist in economics. I'm not a specialist in international trade and spend. So I couldn't give you a guaranteed answer, but I'm not sure I would say that that's 100% accurate. And obviously there's all the costs in the meantime. So there's costs if people are going to go abroad, there's costs of buying a holiday wherever you do it. There's obviously all the things that you might not associate with. There's things like the insurance, which comes to those. Then you've got to buy petrol to get to the airport. You're going to buy stuff at the airport potentially. All of that's still in the country. So I think there's swings and roundabouts on that one. Right, Laurie. Oh, I'm so glad Laurie flagged this. 40% tax I disagree with, especially when one parent is working, for example, and the other is at home looking after the kids. So Laurie is talking about 40% tax, which basically means if you earn over a certain amount, you pay 40% tax on the amounts that you earn above it. I think Laurie will be able to correct me on this. I think it's now £44,000. I'm just going to check. 40% tax threshold is, it might have gone up. Oh, do you know what? It's £50,000. So basically, if you earn 50 grand, and this will sound like a lot to some people, so ping it in the comments, ping it in the messages. If this sounds like a huge amount of money, let me know, because I think this is really important. It's about relativity, effectively, how relative things are for people. So if you earn £50,000 and a penny, everything you earn above 50k, you'll pay 40% tax on. So the first £11,000, I think it is on tax. I think it's 11 grand now, 12 and a half, sorry, personal tax. So everybody can earn £12,500 without paying a single penny in tax. Then from £12,500 to £50,000, you'll pay 20% tax. And then for everything above 50k is sorry, Morris just made a comment. Is you're going to pay 40% tax. There's ways to navigate around this, I guess. You can do it through pension schemes and such like that, but that's only beneficial if you've got a good pension scheme, or you're thinking about long-term retirement type of stuff, which somebody like me doesn't. So yeah, so it's a chunk in terms of what you start to pay. So if you think about, basically, let's say you earn £51,000, you're going to pay £400 tax on that £1,000 at the back end. And I get what Laurie's saying is why should you pay that level of tax? Because you've really, I think what she's saying, I'm going to take the words in previous conversation I've had is a bit of a guesswork here, but you've worked hard, you've trained hard, you've qualified in something, or you've got yourself to a level and a skill set where somebody is willing to pay you £50,000. Therefore, the chances are you are worth that money. You are valued at that point. You've worked hard to get that. Why should you pay more tax than somebody that gets paid £20,000 or £30,000 or £40,000? Why is the break at 50k? And there's arguments to or for this, and I have this debate with my parents all the time, because it comes down to socialism and stuff like that. I'm not going to get into politics, I promise. Well, I am, but not in this discussion. Is why should somebody that works, that's obviously done something somewhere to get themselves to that point, why should they pay more? And I don't believe, because what I always get told, and I hear this a lot from socialists especially, is because they can. Now, to me, because you can is not an answer. It is not a reason, because that's like, do you know what? You can just say that about so many things in the world, because you can. Like, why don't you do this? Or why do you do this? No, because I can. It's like, there's so many examples where it's just bad. It's a bad theory. So I don't believe in that theory. And I'm yet to find somebody that gives me a really good reason why it's done like that. And it makes me understand why some people, I'm not in this category at all, some people say taxation is theft and stuff like that. Like I said, I'm not going to go into that because I think I'm going down a rabbit hole, but I think, you know, and I think I probably disagree with this bit with Laurie in the sense of if you earn 50K, you shouldn't be getting your allowances in the same way and things like child benefit and stuff like that. But it does come down to household income. But then there's some craziness. I remember it was a little while ago that I think it was Alan Sugar was in the news because he wanted to opt out of the heating allowance because he was eligible for a heating allowance. Oh, this is ridiculous. I'm a bloody billionaire. I don't need a heating allowance. But yet it was mandatory. He got it. So he had to then put that money somewhere else. He had to kind of give it back through charities, which is crazy. We live in a world where the government don't means test something like that. Because you don't need the allowances, but it's not to say in the way the taxes work. So I just think it's complicated. I don't think it's simple. For a lot of people, for the vast majority of people, it really doesn't. It's really quite a difficult one because a lot of people will never earn 50K, and therefore it won't affect them directly in terms of the taxing, but it does affect them because the money that's taxed up here from the higher earners goes into the pot and then gets fed off to everybody. So I think it's just a balance. I'm not saying there shouldn't be higher tax rates. I'm just saying that nobody's given me a reason yet as to why that I think is a real reason and why that's the bracket. Just so everyone's clear, I earn nowhere near 50 grand. So I don't pay 40% tax, but I'm nowhere near it. But it's different for me because I run companies. So my tax is done in a different way because of the way that I would earn money. So anyway, so that's kind of it. I think, I've nearly got there. I'm at the end of my Join Joe. I've talked about profits, talked about losses, I've talked about taxation. I've bored everyone to death. And yeah, now really it's time for me to go sit in the hot tub. Sounds really bad, doesn't it? But it's first world problems, you know what I mean? Like it's different problems for different people. So yeah, I think that's it. I'm at the end. I'll be back in next week. What am I going to talk about next week? I have no idea. We'll see what the week brings. There's various bits and pieces. But yeah, so that's it. Hope you've I love that, Glenn. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'll see you next week. Don't forget to tune in for Graham's live for Behind Bars Officer Goodman on Wednesday at 11 o'clock. And yeah, we will catch up with you then. Paul's just asked, am I going to do tours of the new studio when it's built? Yes, I will. Absolutely. So, but anyway, guys, I will let you crack on because I'm being called, and like I said, I'm about to jump in the hot tub. I will catch up with you next Thursday. Hope everyone is well. Take care. Bye.